Her brother stole the business while she was asleep. When Megan opened the account that morning, her access was gone, the balance hidden, and every dollar she'd put in now sat behind his password. No warning, no call, no explanation, just a login error, and the realization that her own brother had erased her overnight. She had built the books, tracked every cent, and trusted the promise he'd made to her face, 50-50. By sunrise, it was no longer a partnership. It was theft. She called him, straight to voicemail. Texted, nothing. Outside, the neighborhood was still quiet, a leaf blower somewhere down the street, sunlight hitting the blinds in sharp lines. She sat there, hands still on the keyboard, feeling the absurd stillness of it all. By noon, she was already at the truck lot. Jason stood by the grill, laughing with a vendor, smoke wrapping around him like nothing had changed. "Hey," she said, keeping her tone neutral. "The account's not letting me in." He didn't even look up. "Yeah, I reset the access. Too many cooks in the kitchen, you know? I'll handle it for now." It took her a moment to process that, the casual tone, the way he flipped the ribs without breaking eye contact with the vendor. "For now," she asked. "Just business stuff, Meg. Don't worry." He smiled again. Same grin. But it didn't land this time. When she walked back to her car, the heat hit like a wall. She sat inside, engine off, the dashboard ticking in the silence. Then she checked her banking app. The transfers had stopped 3 days ago. The smell of grilled meat still clung to her clothes. It wasn't the smell she remembered from when they started. It felt heavier, like something was burning too slow to see. She didn't drive home right away. She just sat there, watching the numbers on her phone. The letter from the bank showed up 3 days later. Plain white envelope. Her name printed neatly, no emotion in the font. She opened it standing by the sink, the water still running. Notification of partnership changes. The words didn't mean much at first. Then her eyes caught the small section. Effective owner, Jason Price. Her fingers went cold. She turned off the tap, water dripping from her wrist onto the paper. That night, she drove to the county office. The place was nearly empty, just a janitor pushing a mop, the smell of cleaner sharp in the air. She asked to see the registration documents for Price Barbecue. The clerk scrolled, printed, handed her a copy. One signature was hers, except it wasn't. The loops were wrong, too smooth, like someone practiced. She stood there for a while, paper trembling slightly. Not from fear, from something colder. Jason didn't pick up her call. When he finally texted, it was short. "Stop stressing. I'm taking care of everything." She stared at the message, then at the photo still taped to her fridge, the two of them at the first truck opening, both in matching aprons, grease on their faces, smiling like they'd built something honest. The next morning, she packed the photo away in a drawer. Not out of anger, just to make space. She found the old envelope, the one she'd written on years ago. Barbecue investment, Megan's start. It still held the original deposit receipt, creased from time. She laid it flat on her desk and pressed her palm over it, like testing if something alive was still beneath. When Jason came by that weekend, he acted light, almost cheerful. "Meg, come on. You hate paperwork. This is just cleaner. Streamlined." "Streamlined," she repeated. Her voice sounded strange, too even. He shrugged. "We're family. Don't make it weird." She looked at him then, really looked, the easy charm, the way he avoided her eyes. It wasn't a fight anymore. It was recognition. That night, she made a list. Not of money, but of proof. Every date, every deposit, every word he couldn't erase. The printer started before sunrise. It hummed, clicked, paused, breathing for her. Megan sat at the desk, screen light on her glasses, while page after page rolled out. Dates, transfers, memos, all stamped shared account. The air felt thick, heavy with the smell of ink and old paper. She opened another folder, this one labeled Invoices 2022. Inside were receipts with her handwriting, photos from the first events, signed vendor slips. All the small fingerprints of her work that Jason had ignored. She wasn't angry anymore, not even disappointed. What she felt was closer to calculation, that quiet state where emotion gives up and focus takes over. Each file she printed went into a box, stacked with precision. She labeled it, Financial Proof, Price Barbecue. Her coffee went cold. Birds started outside. By mid-morning, she drove to a small law office 2 blocks from the bank. Beige building, flickering fluorescent lights, a fake plant by the reception desk. The attorney, middle-aged, glasses sliding down his nose, asked how long she'd known. "About a week," she said. "And you have evidence?" She pushed the box across the table. Paper shifted softly inside. He looked through the top layer, eyebrows lifting just slightly. "This is thorough. Numbers don't lie," she said. Something in her tone made him pause. Not the words, but the calmness. He nodded slowly. "Then let's start from here." The next few days blurred. Calls, forms, quiet meetings. Every time she signed a page, she double-checked the pen pressure, the way the ink pressed into the fibers. No one would forge her name again. On Friday evening, she sat in her car outside the food truck lot. The sky burned orange, heat rising off the asphalt. Jason's truck was still there, music playing, people laughing. He didn't see her. She didn't get out. For the first time in weeks, she felt still. The printer's hum echoed in her head like a steady metronome. Not anger, not revenge, just math, patient, exact, unstoppable. The courtroom smelled of paper and burnt coffee. Megan sat still, hands folded, a box of files beside her. Across the room, Jason. New shirt, same grin. As if this was just another meeting, not the end of something. The judge's voice was calm, practiced. "We're here to determine ownership and alleged forgery within the business known as Price Barbecue." Jason spoke first. He told the story his way, how he built the brand, handled the marketing, did the real work. His lawyer nodded along. Megan just listened. She didn't look at him, didn't need to. She'd already lived every lie he was repeating. When it was her turn, she didn't raise her voice. She opened the box, took out a folder, and slid it toward the clerk. Bank transfers, investment receipts, vendor contracts, all under both our names. The judge flipped through the pages, eyes narrowing slightly. Jason shifted in his seat. "She's twisting this." She was helping. "I'm the operator here." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Your Honor, we'd like to note that my client." But the judge interrupted, holding up a still frame from the video Megan had provided. Jason, in a bank lobby, handing her a document, smiling. His voice played faintly through the courtroom speakers. "Just sign here, it's a formality. Keeps the paperwork clean." Silence followed. Even the air conditioner seemed to stop. Megan didn't move. She just watched him, not to gloat, but to mark the moment. The judge leaned back. "Forgery established. Ownership reverts to Ms. Price. Court is adjourned." The gavel hit once. Jason stood frozen for a second, like he hadn't heard it right. Then he looked at her, finally, eyes wide, mouth tight. She held his gaze, calm, unreadable. Outside, the sun was bright, wind hot against the asphalt. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. The sound that followed her down the courthouse steps wasn't applause or anger, just the faint echo of her heels. Even, steady, final. The grill hissed as the first piece of meat hit the metal. Smoke rose in slow ribbons, drifting toward the same parking lot where it all began. Their old food truck, repainted and renamed. Price Barbecue, owned by M. Price. Megan wiped her hands on a towel, checked the register, and gave the next customer their change. The motion was automatic, smooth. Behind her, the small radio played a country song she half recognized. It had been weeks since the court ruling, but the routine felt older, like she had simply stepped back into the life that was supposed to be hers all along. A young couple stood near the counter, whispering. The man asked, "Wasn't this run by her brother before?" The woman shrugged. "Think so. Not anymore, I guess." Megan heard them, but didn't turn. She placed another tray on the counter, a quiet smile at the corner of her mouth, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes but still feels honest. Inside the truck, everything was clean, organized, her rhythm, her rules. The binder of invoices sat on a small shelf, the old banking envelope tucked neatly inside. She had written one more line on it, in pencil this time. Settled. July. When the lunch rush slowed, she stepped outside, leaned against the counter, and looked at the small crowd eating under the umbrellas. Jason hadn't shown up since the ruling. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe that was the real sentence. Watching her keep the thing he threw away. A breeze carried the smell of smoke and sauce back toward her. The same smell that once meant chaos, now steady and calm. She let out a slow breath. A teenage worker called from inside. "We're running low on brisket." Megan turned, voice clear, even. "I'll handle it." She took the tongs, opened the grill, and laid down another row of meat. The hiss rose again, sharp, sure, final. For a second, she stood still, watching the smoke lift, pale against the afternoon light. Then she closed the lid and got back to work.